Hello, thank you for joining us here at West London Sport. I'm with Ben Kosky and Ian McCullough. Been a couple of weeks since we've done one of these guys. Normally quite a quiet time when the season ends, and then we have to wait, till the transfer window sort of begins. But it's actually been quite a busy time, funnily enough, for QPR, and something we've obviously found out in the last few minutes from our trusted QPR reporter Dave McIntyre, who's always on it, always with the latest news, is that QPR are on the hunt for another goalkeeper, with Liam Kelly, as we understand it, quite keen to join Motherwell. QPR not too keen on loaning him out again, so we'll have to keep an eye on that one for sure. And they're obviously looking at getting a replacement backup goalkeeper in now, with Joe Lumley obviously heading off to Middlesbrough, and if Liam Kelly does depart. And someone that's on the radar, on the shortlist that they're looking at, is Andy Lonergan, the veteran goalkeeper, who is quite obviously well known to goalkeeping coach Gavin Ward, but he's just obviously one of a number of options that they're looking at, that they're considering. But certainly it looks at this stage like they will be looking for another backup goalkeeper. Ian, what's your reaction to that? Do you think Andy Lonergan could do a job at Rangers next season if it came to that?
Well, he's played over 400 league games, so he's got plenty of experience, which is kind of what you need. Dieng's probably going to miss about 4 to 5 weeks of the season next year with the African Cup of Nations.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Coming up. So they kind of need someone I know is going to be a safe pair of hands. So I got some young lads there like Joe Walsh and Dylan Barnes, who I guess aren't quite ready for the first team, or maybe Barnes is more of a number 3 than a number 2. And I think they're very keen to loan out Walsh, who obviously is very young and highly thought of. I think he was named in part of an England kind of meet-up group. So they keen to let him go out on loan and get some experience. But yeah, I mean, if he comes in Lonergan, you know what he can do. He's played at the level. He's been around some big clubs in the last couple of years. He was at Liverpool, wasn't he? When I think there was an edict from the Premier League, you had to have an English goalkeeper.
He played, didn't he? He played a game, didn't he? I seem to remember. Was it when Alisson was out, and was it Adrian? Something happened or I think there was Adrian just playing really badly or something, and they all went for Lonergan. Yeah, I remember it quite happening. Yeah. So last appearance.
You don't
get, but it might be.
You don't get signed by Liverpool, even if it is to be a number 3 goalkeeper, without being of a decent standard. So yeah, if they can bring him in and he can be a deputy, then yeah, why not?
What do you think, Ben? Would you be happy with that one? Do you think he's a capable backup goalkeeper? Even obviously, like Ian said, he's been around for quite a while now. Do you think he still could do a job next season for Rangers?
Well, I'd agree with Ian's assessment of Lonergan. I mean, he's certainly proven at championship level over the years, and as you said, has got bags of experience. I mean, I think it really depends what sort of player they're looking for to push Dieng, and whether they want that sort of wise old head who can come in and play a few games when he's needed, or do they want the young up and coming kind of player to push him? It's a difficult one to work out what's going to be best, because of course Dieng he's in that age category that he's neither a youngster, nor is he kind of in the prime of his career. So I think it depends how they see his role. But in terms of bringing in another keeper, certainly makes absolute sense. And you mentioned Joe Lumley leaving, Dan, which I think was probably inevitable. I think from his point of view, he's taken the opportunity to go to Middlesbrough and presumably become a first choice keeper there, because Bettinelli will be going back to Fulham, who's been on loan there. So there's a vacancy. And I think also one thing that's worth pointing out is kind of lower down the pecking order at Rangers. We've had a couple of the younger goalkeepers have been released as well, which suggests that, again, just in terms of numbers of people on board, you're looking to get in someone else at this point.
Yeah, we might as well come on to Lumley now, because I did want to touch on that. Obviously, announced that he's going to be joining Middlesbrough, going to be a Middlesbrough player next season. It's quite a strange one, because I started covering QPR not the last season, obviously just gone, but the one before that, and I'd seen Joe Lumley on loan at Blackpool. We had him for about 6 months, or second half of the season it was, and I was really impressed. I thought he was really good. I was quite hoping we could keep him actually. So I was expecting really big things. And like last season was obviously his toughest spell as a professional footballer. He just didn't look confident at all. He was making so many mistakes. His handling, his kicking was poor, and he felt like he was going to cost QPR a goal every game. But then he comes back in this season for a couple of games, and he looks a bit more like his old self before that season. He was playing quite well, and some people have taken to Twitter and sort of said maybe it'll be a bigger miss, and some obviously not so much. I mean, old QPR goalkeeper Peter Hucker, one of those that's gone on Twitter and said that maybe he will be a bigger miss than some people realise. What do you think about that, Ian? I mean, it's like Ben said, I guess it was kind of inevitable that Lumley was going to move on because he wasn't first choice and he needs football. But do you think he might be a slightly bigger miss than some people expect, or do you not think that?
I mean, he's a very competent goalkeeper at this level. It's a tough one, isn't it, for him, because he's been first choice, and it was a bit of a stretch to kind of persuade him to sign a new contract when that Dieng, such a fantastic season last year, is going to be first choice, and getting a move to Middlesbrough, it's a great move for him. Big club. He's very close with Grant Hall. He knows Neil Warnock from Warnock's time as manager here. So yeah, it's a good move for him, and one he probably couldn't turn down. Will he be a loss? Yeah, I guess. He's not a better goalkeeper than Dieng, so short term he probably isn't going to be a loss. No, and last season he was really poor. Let's be honest about it. He wasn't just the crossing that he struggled with and the ball at his feet. He was just letting in bad goals that went through him. Missing crosses, just completely lost his confidence. And when a keeper loses his confidence, it's very hard to get it back. And it's to his credit that when he did play this season, he actually played very well. So and which probably earned him a move that if he hadn't had that little run in the team, maybe he wouldn't have got a move to Middlesbrough. So sliding doors moments, etc., etc. He played against Middlesbrough and Dieng got sent off, had a really good performance and got his move on the back of that, it seems. So we don't know, do we? But you can't keep everyone, and if he wants to be a first choice goalkeeper and the move comes about, you can't really, not much you can do to keep him. So Dieng's on a long-term contract. He looks like a good keeper for the future, and has done more than enough to earn the right to be the first choice. So time will tell, I guess.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised that Mark Warburton kept Lumley in the team for as long as he did last season, because it seemed at one point in the press conference, or I say it was a press conference, it's a bit changed a bit now with COVID. They take you up to the room, but just gathered around him on the side of the pitch, and it seems like every week he was getting asked the same question about Joe Lumley, and obviously he didn't like getting asked. He got frustrated with it because it's not nice being asked the same question every week, but it was the same persistent problem, and QPR fans getting quite irate that he was carry on being named in goal. And then obviously Liam Kelly came in and replaced him and sort of didn't make as many mistakes as Lumley, but didn't wow at the same time, didn't wholly convince like Seny Dieng has. So I suppose, Ben, it comes back to, like you say, it's sort of a way up between, do you go for a younger up-and-coming goalkeeper that could maybe eventually take Seny Dieng's place if he moves on? Although we should point out that as it stands, we understand there's no inquiries for Dieng yet, and QPR do expect him to stay for next season, which is really positive. Obviously, one player of the season. Didn't he? Did Rob Dickey one player of the season? He won our player of the season, the real award. But what do you think about that? I think it's best to go for just a short-term fix like a Lonergan, just to keep you stable, make sure there's no leaked goals. Like Ian said, obviously he's going to have to play a little bit if Seny Dieng goes away, or would you rather see him invest in the future like they have done quite a lot in more recent times?
Yeah, well, I think you do have to have someone who you regard as being capable of coming in, and let's not, obviously we hope Dieng can maintain the standards he's set in the last year, or less than a year, isn't it? It's a funny sort of season, but we've got to accept the possibility he might have a loss in form. He may have a dip in form, and he might need to come out of the team at some point. Now, at that stage, you've got to have someone who can not only push him for his place, but can replace him if need be. And I think you've got to think very carefully about that. I mean, I'm not a fan of goalkeepers who are content to spend their entire careers sitting on the bench. And we've seen some of those at QPR and other clubs. because there's really no point in it. You've got to be someone who is challenging for the shirt.
It's hard though, isn't it? Because
I can't agree with you there, because like you've got Alisson, Liverpool,
one there, weren't
the
it?
best goalkeepers in the world. The bloke who's been on the bench is not going to be challenging for his place, is he?
I was still going to say as well. I think it's hard.
Well, I'm going to say, hang on.
Different sport. In the American football, you have a backup quarterback. There's only one quarterback. There's only one goalkeeper. So you need someone who's a goalkeeper who can come on if he's sent off or he's out for 1 or 2 games. He can do a job. And as soon as he's fit, the first choice guy comes back in. Goalkeeper's a completely different position to any position on the field. You've got other competent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone's got a chance to be first choice. They're going to be first choice at another club. Someone that perhaps is 1.5 choice. You need to have that. They're a valuable addition to your squad. So someone that's happy to sit on the bench is an asset to your team as well. They're not kicking off. They're not complaining. They're happy to play that role. They're happy to back up the goalkeeper, to warm up the goalkeeper. You need to have them. These are the sort of players that they're very important members of squads.
Well, two things there, Ian. I mean, one, I think that works up to a point. But in my eyes, if you have a goalkeeper who is content to sit on the bench for 4 years, and the name that comes to mind in recent QPR history is Brian Murphy, who I don't have anything against him personally, but I just frankly couldn't understand his attitude as a professional footballer. He spent 4 years at QPR. He played, I think, about 5 first-team games, and then moved on to Cardiff. Sorry, was it Cardiff or Swansea? I think he played for both, I know. And basically, apart from the times when he's played, in the League of Ireland, he's never been a first choice anywhere. He's played about 60 games in his career in English football. Now, you take back that time at QPR. Now, he came in, Paddy Kenny was the first choice. Then a year later, Rob Green came in. Then 2 weeks later or something, Julio Cesar came in. Alex McCarthy came in. How long are you going to sit on the bench before you show some ambition? And to me, that's not the sort of player you want as a backup goalkeeper. You want someone who is fighting for the shirt. And I'm going to take you back.
Andy Lonergan, not that then, Ben, because obviously he's been sitting on, like I said, he started before, but he has.
Well, I think, okay, Andy Lonergan, to me, yeah, and Andy Lonergan is someone who potentially does fit that category. But I'm going to take you back again in QPR history about 30 years or so, Ian, and you'll remember this as well. Who was the first choice goalkeeper? Was it Jan Stejskal or was it Tony Roberts?
Jan Stejskal.
See, I'd disagree with you, because if you look at the games that each of them played,
Roberts was the goalkeeper and they bought Stejskal to replace him.
But if you look at the period that the two of them were there, I don't think there was ever a time at which you could say he's the first choice and he's the reserve, because they alternated. They came in and out. They had dips in form. They had obviously injuries and so on. But what I'm saying is that worked. It worked. You didn't have an established first choice and a reserve. And I just feel you get
so do you think it worked with Robert Green and Julio Cesar then?
No, not at all. But then that's
completely. That's your argument. You've got to have 2 goalkeepers that are vying for the same shirt. It causes more problems.
No. But the difference with that is that they sign them at the same time. You can't possibly do that and expect it to work. You can't bring in Rob Green on the understanding you're going to be first choice, and then a few weeks later change your mind.
You need a backup goalkeeper who's happy to play second fiddle, but can come and do the job.
But my point is, you can't have that situation going on for years. Now, if we get it back to Andy Lonergan, that's not going to be the case, because Andy Lonergan's towards the end of his career, and we've seen some goalkeepers at QPR who come in at the end of their careers and done a very good job, essentially as backup. I mean, I'm thinking of someone like Paul Jones, the Wales goalkeeper, who came in at the end of his career and did that job extremely well. So, I mean, if we're taking it back to the relevant point, I think Lonergan could work. I'm just wondering whether there may not be more benefit in bringing in someone who's a bit younger
they've done that.
And a bit hungrier.
They bought a goalkeeper for the future. So, Sonny Deang's your goalkeeper. Yeah. The reason that Rangers have been settled in the back this year is because the goalkeeper's been good. You keep the goalkeeper. He's done nothing to suggest his form's going to drop off a cliff and he's going to play like Joe Lumley did last year. So,
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. But what I'm saying is you've got to plan for that possibility as well. And Joe Walsh, as you say, a lot of good things said about Joe Walsh, and clearly one they rate very well for the future. But he's probably of an age where he's not quite at the right age to be the backup goalkeeper. You probably want someone who's maybe, I don't know, 21, 22.
You send him out on loan. You send him out on loan, like I did with Dieng, get some experience, and he comes back. Dieng plays the form he has last season the next 2 years, then he'll move on, and then Walsh is obviously the natural successor. So they are doing it, but in the meantime, you need a short-term replacement to come in and do a job.
Joe Walsh there, isn't it? Joe, if you're watching, Ian says you got a big.
I haven't seen. I've never seen him play. I don't know what he's like. But
yeah,
I mean,
I don't know. Yeah, I think the concern for Lonergan with me is just the amount of football he's played or not played, I should say, in recent times. You look, I'm just on his Wikipedia now, so I might be wrong, but it says he didn't make an appearance for Liverpool. But I thought I remember he did make one, so that might not be right.
Well, I think, Dan, if I remember rightly, he played in the Super Cup final.
Right, maybe this is just like league appearances, but apparently he didn't play for Stoke or West Brom, or he played very little if he did play for Stoke or West Brom. It's just like
see, I just have a suspicion. As I say, I have a suspicion of goalkeepers who go from one club to another and sit on the bench. You know, that to me doesn't speak volumes, or doesn't say to me this is a hungry player.
But it's not a big a deal, really, is it? In the wider scheme of thing of football, it's not a big problem.
I think it is a problem.
It's not a problem.
I think it's a very big problem.
You've got 7 subs. How often does the second choice goalkeeper get a game?
Well, you said yourself when Dieng got sent off at Middlesbrough.
You've got someone that's moaning and complaining to the manager, I should be playing. That causes more problem than it's worth. Know your place, your second choice goalkeeper.
At the same time,
every squad's got to have one. Every team in the Football League has a second choice goalkeeper. That's on the bench.
At the same time, because I remember Mark Warburton
spending way too much time on this.
Well, stop arguing.
This is the final point. Do you think, as a counter to that, I've heard Mark Warburton speak quite passionately about the need for competition at the goalkeeper spot before and how important that is, and especially last season when people were asking him about, is Kelly the number one, is Lumley the number one, and going in depth in that and who's your number one, he was sort of batted it off by saying about the competition. Do you not think that's quite important to get the best level, the highest level out of your supposed first choice goalkeeper, someone that can definitely come in and replace you if you drop?
Well, I guess it's worked, isn't it? Because Dieng's risen as cream rises at the top, and he's the best at the 3 of them. So
that's why is Lonergan that goalie? You know, I think you got to ask that question: is he going to put that much pressure on Dieng, or is he just going to be?
Do you want someone that's going to come in and disrupt the form, Dieng's kind of progress, if you like?
It's a balance.
But I wouldn't look at it like that. I look at it as someone who can push him harder. I think it's a dangerous situation where you've got someone who's guaranteed their place in the side. And as you said, it is unique with goalkeeper. It is like quarterback in the NFL because it's a specialist position. It's not as if another player in the squad, you can say, let's say, for example, Jeff Cameron, who's just left QPR, he could slot in centre-back, or he could go in midfield, or he could even go right-back or whatever. So there's options there. With a goalkeeper,
I'd rather go into a season knowing who number one goalkeeper is. Who's your first choice goalkeeper? You know who he is. You start at the back, you build your team, then you know who you are. You know who we are.
We're
going to goalkeeper about who's going to be in goal. We don't know. Should it be Kelly? Should it be Lumley? Give me the goalkeeper I know is going to catch the ball and stop the ball going in the back of the net. And we've got
what Manchester United are going through as well, isn't it, at the moment? So I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said the other day about the difficulty of them having David De Gea and Jordan Henderson, and how he didn't want to go into next season with that predicament as well. It's good to have a first choice. So interesting. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Might not be definite Lonergan. They might go for a younger option, but it'll be interesting to see the way they go. But yeah, as I mentioned at the start, it's been a busy couple of weeks for QPR. Already sealed a couple of the loan signings that we spoke about last time about us thinking that they should do that. Jordy and Sam Field already announced. Dave McIntyre obviously reporting that Charlie Austin is close and they are approaching something. So certainly one to keep an eye on as well. Ian, what did you make of the and Field signings? Obviously, I know you were pretty keen on getting them in. Sam Field kind of played a bit sporadically when he first came in. He maybe didn't feature I think he had that sort of 12 start clause in the contract, didn't he? Where if he made 12 starts, they could get him for a certain amount. We didn't meet that, so he's sort of in and out a bit. And obviously Jordy had his injury problems as well. But do you expect them to go on and actually be key players next season if they can stay fit?
Yeah, I think they're both good signings. I really like the Field signing. I think he's, Don Ball's done a steady old job when he's needed to, but Sam Field's an upgrade on him. So it's a sensible signing. You're seeing signings being made that it's a progressive signing. It's better than what you have. It's made your team better.
Young as well.
He's 23. He's had a lot of injuries. His career really has been kind of stop-start with injuries, which is probably a reason why that he didn't start those 12 games. They kind of used him off the bench here and there. And I think I've read quotes from him saying that, he played 2 90-minute games back to back and he felt like been hit by a bus. So obviously,
I can relate. I played 5-a-side the other day for the first time. I felt like I'd been hit by a bus as well, let alone 90.
Yeah, Warburton's very keen on keeping players fresh, and that's so they used him very well, I thought. And the games he did play, he did very well. He's he's a good player, and I think there's a lot of West Brom fans. I've got a lad I know is a West Brom fan, mate of mine. He's a bit disappointed they've let him go, but it's that case. They've got such a big squad, West Brom, much like Fulham have. I know Mark Warburton's very, very keen to get the Johansen back. I think out of all the signings he could get, I think that's the one he wants most. And I think if QPR can get him and Austin back over the line, that really would be, because also in addition to being new signings and that they're coming in, they can hit the ground running in pre-season. The start of the season, you're not that horrible phrase I hate using it.
Ben touched on it today, wasn't it?
Bedding players in, you sign new players, they got to bed in and gel and all that. You've got guys that know the system, they know the manager, they know the teammates, they can slot straight in. And it's been said before, teams like to do their business early, whether or not that's just another cliche or not. But I don't see it being a negative, getting guys in the early in the window.
Yeah.
So you start training, you just kind of you're ready to go.
Exactly what Ben touched on. That said the other week, wasn't it, about need to get it done early, and so not scrapping around for players in January again. Like obviously with the COVID and stuff, it was a bit of a trickier transfer window, and that wasn't even the summer transfer in the end, was it? It's a bit more difficult to get, but. Yeah, I mean, you touched on Johansen there. I think we knew that was going to be the most difficult one to do. If they could get him in, I think if you've got a midfield there, if Sam Field maybe is the more defensive one, and then you've got Luke Amos coming back, if he can stay fit as the sort of energetic kind of box-to-box player, and then you've got Johansen as well, if they're going to play that midfield free, I think, to me, that would excite me if I was a QPR fan like you two, that would fill me with a lot of hope, I think that's a good balance in that midfield. So hopefully they can... get Johansen over the line. We'll have to see what happens with that one. And obviously Charlie Austin as well. Looks like he's on his holidays at the moment on his Twitter. I don't know if you've seen that, but it looks like he's having a great time. So they would have to see when he comes back if he puts pen to paper, if QPR have made him a decent...
One of the other positive aspects to those early signings, if you like, is just the fact that, players have clearly enjoyed their time on loan at QPR. And that in itself speaks well. There clearly wasn't too much discussion to be done about, are you going to stay? Are you going to come in permanently? Because, they've got those done, and they may get, as you say, 2 more, or at least 1 more. So again, that just, I think, does speak positively about the kind of atmosphere they had going at the club in the second half of last season as well.
I think it would be quite interesting, like Ian, you sort of said there, like if West Brom obviously got relegated from the Premier League and they let Sam Field and Charlie Austin go, who are clearly 2 very capable Championship players. And then if Fulham let Stefan Johansen go, if that does end up happening, he's another really good Championship player. So it strikes me as a little bit weird that these Premier League clubs that are getting relegated are letting go of their good Championship players. All 3 of them to me would be, I would think, I know they've got bigger squads and they've come round from the Prem, but I'd still have them in my team personally.
Well, you look at Fulham. I mean, Johansen wants to come. QPR want him. It's kind of balls in Fulham's court, really. I mean, if you're Fulham CEO, Alistair McIntosh, is obviously his job is to kind of get as much money as he can for a player. But I mean, look at Fulham. They got midfield at the minute. They got Tom Kearney, Harrison Reed, Anguissa, Josh Onomur. They got Fabio Carvalho coming through. They've got a massive squad. They've got nearly 50 professionals. Got a huge wage bill. They're coming down. A lot of these guys are going to be on Premiership money, but they're going to get relegated and be back on Championship money. So they need to offload. And, really, Kearney's back full fit. He's going to be a first choice for Fulham. Harrison Reed's a pretty decent player. You imagine he'll be first choice. They really want to. Josh Onomah, they signed from Tottenham last year. He did okay when he played in the Premier League this year. It was pretty good for them in the Championship when they went up. He's going to be in the side. There's a lot of options Fulham have got. So, it really is a case of, can QPR strike a deal with Fulham to get Johansen, or will someone else come in and try and sign him? I mean, the signs are that, there's a reasonable chance they will get him, but it really does all depend on, what kind of deal can be done financially with Fulham.
I think they've got the advantage given the proximity to Fulham. Obviously, it's not going to take a lot for him to move. He can probably stay wherever he is now. And also that he's obviously had the second half of the season on at QPR, and he knows what he's going to get, and he knows what he's going to get from the manager. So that does work in their favour. But I think you're right that if I was a Championship team looking to push for the playoffs, looking to push for promotion, I needed a bit more depth in that midfield. I'd be all on Stefan Johansen. I don't see why he wouldn't, to be honest. He's a quality player, and he showed it during that second half of the season.